Welcome to Massive Passive Cash Flow, the podcast that guides professionals to financial prosperity. Join our community and let's start building your wealth. Here's your host, Gary Wilson.
Hello, welcome back to the Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast. I'm Gary Wilson, your host. We're glad to have you back. Hey, if you haven't done so, if you could go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. It's on any number of channels, of course, Apple, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, you name it. And while you're out there, please visit globalinvestoragent.com, new website that showcases agents that are trained to work with you and I, the investors. Not only are they trained, I know how they're trained because we train them, and they have access to every single property in the entire country. Doesn't matter where you're coming from or where you're going to, they can help you out. They know how to identify them, analyze them, negotiate them with lots of other tools. So it doesn't cost you a dime, which is the great thing. So if you're an agent, you're listening, you better head over there right away and click on the Learn More button, because the way this market's going, you really need to have this to be part of your model, guys. I can't emphasize that enough. So in any case, without further ado, we got a great guest today, Ashley Tison, all the way from Charlotte, North Carolina. So Ashley, thanks, man, for doing this. I really appreciate you taking your time to join us and share your knowledge and wisdom with us today.
It's an honor and a privilege, Gary. Appreciate you having me on.
Great. And it's funny for everybody listening. We chatted before this, and turns out my dad has lived in a neighborhood, Ashley knows where it is, and it's called the Dilworth area in Charlotte, and a great town. It's an amazing growth in the last 2 generations. Great place to be, great place to invest to, by the way. So if you could, Ashley, I know the subject today is opportunities.
I was going to say, I hope that your dad kept his house that he had there in Dilworth, because the appreciation since when he bought it and what it is now. Oh man,
he bought it in 2002. We just sold it last year, and
fantastic.
It was one of the nice ones with an elevator and the whole deal, and it was pretty. He did well.
Well, you had a capital gain, man. I wish you would have known about me, and we could have showed you how to defer that and put it into something else in an opportunity zone.
Yeah, exactly. He's a good guy. Served the country his entire life, and lots of good history there. But so I tell you what, when it comes to opportunities, what I want to have you do, if you don't mind, because I love the conversation. Everybody listening, this is going to be one of the best subjects, so make sure you are tuned in and focused. But if you could actually tell us how you actually got to this point, and then it might make more sense, and we can get into this to some content,
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm an attorney. I like to call myself a reformed attorney. I try to practice as little as possible. I'm all about getting in the game. And the way you get in the game is by being a deal guy and making things happen. And so I went to Chapel Hill for law school. Like we talked about before, I played basketball at UNC Charlotte. That's why we got down here to Charlotte. And then after law school, came back and worked for a big firm. After the big firm had sufficiently sucked my soul for 5 years, I went out and started a social investment company at the same time that I went to be general counsel for a tenant and common syndicator. So, once again, while I was working for the beast doing tick deals, I was doing things that were meeting my need for, social justice and really making an impact through impact investing on the side. So when the real estate market crashed, after we syndicated a bunch of different tenant and common transactions, I went back to practicing law, built up an M&A practice. And in what we did is we built a system to where we were able to bring Wall Street level sophistication to Main Street. And we did that in the M&A world. And I sold that practice in 2017 so that I could focus on putting more money in business owners' pocket and getting them access to tax mitigation strategies that ultra high net worth individuals were using. So once again, kind of bringing Wall Street level sophistication to Main Street. And while I was at a CLE, I heard about opportunity zones, and I was like, holy cow, that's like 1031. Got married to private equity, and they had this beautiful baby called Opportunity Zones. And so we popped up a website just to kind of test the waters. And with 150 inbound leads in 2 days and about $50 million worth of cash looking for deals, we were like, oh, wow, we're onto something. Yeah. And so we repurposed that machine that we had built for the M&A world. And we basically set out to become the legal Zoom for opportunity zones, to democratize access to opportunity zones, to put this really powerful tax incentive in the hands of Main Street America, where that's the backbone of America's economy.
Yeah. I tell you what, I knew I was going to like this interview here, and I fully appreciate what you're saying, and I absolutely agree. So one of the big tenets of opportunity zones, my understanding is the big tax advantage to doing this. In the old days, we had what's called CRA, Community Reinvestment Act, which was based on a really low interest rate government loan, 3%, when rates at the time were like 9%. But this is a whole different strategy. So would you mind talking about, how a good quality opportunity zone can have a great uh, effect on your tax situation, especially when you have the type of economy we have now and potentially a changing administration in another couple of years. It's so volatile. No, I shouldn't say volatile. Um, it's so uncertain out there. That's probably a better term. So in those terms, how does this? Why is this so important to people to understand more about this?
Yeah, so I think it's the greatest, tax incentive that Congress has ever created. And I certainly think that it has the most potential to generate generational wealth while at the same time creating positive social impact. And so Congress got it right when they did this. Now, obviously, and so there's lots of naysayers, there's lots of critics out there who say, oh, well, it's just a program for the rich to get richer. And I completely disagree with that. There's no way that we're going to keep private capital from wanting to make money, right?
Exactly.
But in this case, they created a program where it allows private capital to make money at the same time as it's doing social good. And the way that they did that is they created the opportunity for governors to designate opportunity zones inside of their states. So each governor got to designate up to 25% of their low income census tracts as opportunity zones. And if you take a capital gain and you put it into a fund, and then you invest that money into an opportunity zone, and you effectively hold your investment for 10 years, when you exit at the end of those 10 years, you get to exit with a step up in basis to fair market value, which eliminates not only capital gains, but also depreciation recapture. And so for your savvy investors out there, and for your savvy, real estate agents and that kind of thing that are plugged into your program, they understand the value of depreciation in the form of real estate and being able to utilize that depreciation to offset the income. And so the power of not having to pay that recapture on the back end is even more powerful. And so the great thing about opportunity zones is that there's 8,700 of them. And so it's not completely blighted communities and just that, right? Now, those are definitely some of them. And so, what there becomes is this opportunity to do great things even inside of those. And so, in the chase for alpha, which every investor is looking for, you got to go to places where there's still value, and opportunity zones are that place. And then when you couple in the tax incentive on top of that, it becomes even that much more powerful.
Yeah. Well, I love it. If we could, I want to kind of, I appreciate that. That was a really good explanation, by the way, and I appreciate that. So everybody listening, that's, you're getting now you understand why it's so important from a tax perspective to understand this investment opportunity. Now, when it comes to the social impact part, can we expand on that a little bit? Because I know you mentioned, and it's not always an opportunity zone is not always an area that's blighted or abandoned, that kind of thing. It's just sometimes it's an area that the local authorities, the regional planning commissions, and the state want to make better use of it. And when that happens, how does that impact? What's the social impact there? Does it create new jobs? Is it more places for people to go and live and shop? I mean, maybe touch on that a little bit if you could.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the great things about this program is that it's not just limited to real estate. Now, obviously, real estate's gotten the lion's share of investment, and there's all kinds of different theories and postulates about that. But in reality, the reason why, and I think that the reason why that it's gotten the lion's share of real estate, is because real estate investors understand tax incentive programs.
Mm-hmm.
They've been indoctrinated through 1031 about the power of tax deferral. Well, if you think about the power of 1031 and then you compare it to opportunity zones, it's incomparable, because opportunity zones eliminate, they don't just defer, they eliminate taxes on the back end.
Yeah.
And so I regularly talk to people about the difference between 1031 and opportunity zones. We've got some recordings out there and that kind of stuff on our YouTube channel. And, if somebody wants to deep dive into that, but it becomes a really powerful play, not just because of, of your ability to eliminate taxes on the back end, but you've also got the ability to invest into operating businesses. So with those two intertwined, you can twine the two, right? So you can combine real estate investing with operating businesses in order to really, blow up an area. One of the things that we're working on right now is helping people that have properties in opportunity zones turn them into virtual accelerators and incubators that are taking advantage of the opportunity zone classification. And literally just by being inside of the zone, it qualifies any tenant that they have to qualify for opportunity zone funding. And so, savvy real estate agents out there who are listening to your program and are learning about opportunity zones are now vested with another tool and another arrow in their quiver that they can use for their clients and for their investors. So, with all of those things combined, it's positioned places where they wanted, growth, and where they wanted to accelerate that growth. It's positioned those extremely well. And then inside of the code, they included provisions in there that you have to either, buy something in original use, or you have to substantially improve it, so that way we don't have people just, putting money in and doing land banking deals. There's activity that's happening inside of the opportunity zones. And we've got some pending legislation that's going to, include some additional stuff about jobs created and other types of social impact that's happening. And that's one of the things that we regularly help people with, is saying, okay, how can we really, really have positive social impact within the context of what your deal is doing? Not just the derivative downstream jobs created, but how can you actively, positively affect the people in the zone where you're going? So the complaints about gentrification, the issues associated with that are very real. How can we address those, and how can we be part of an active, proactive solution to really accommodating what's happening inside of that, where we've got a place that might historically be underinvested in? How do we position that so it can receive investment, and then really get proactive on dealing with the things that are the outfall of that, including the potential of gentrification and that kind of thing?
Awesome. Well, I tell you what, I think everybody's probably, their ears are probably perked up and really listening now. So I know one of the next questions, and mine is anyways, is, how does someone go about, let's say that you got the information, they're working with you, and they identify an opportunity. How do you actually go about setting up and leveraging a business, an opportunity zone operating business? What is that? What are some of the key things that they need to know, listeners need to know, or things to look out for, things to plan for, that type of thing,
Yeah, absolutely. So it's interesting because when we first created the LegalZoom, we turned it on, and then, we got our first customer in, and it was like, oh, we got our first customer. And then, and then it was like, bing, 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 bing. And, the forms were getting filled out, but they were getting filled out incorrectly. And so we're like, all right, hold up. We need to implement a strategy call process. And so we put up a strategy call, and so people could call, and they'd had a strategy call before they did the documents, so they learned how to do them correctly. And that strategy call process has actually become almost like a business in and of itself. So we've had over 1,500 of them with people across the country, where we specifically map out, where we walk them through, all right, what do you want to do? What are you really interested in? What opportunity zone are you focused on? And then let's come up with your game plan about how you move forward. When you have that, or if you have that, or if you have a deal, right, then as part of that, and this is what we do in the strategy call regularly, you're going to end up setting up a qualified opportunity fund, which is just, in the way we always set them up, we set them up as LLCs, tax-less partnerships. So you got to have a partner in it, but then you drop your capital gains, and it has to be capital gains as the equity into the qualified opportunity fund. And then you put that money into either a qualified opportunity zone business or directly into the property itself. Usually you're running it through a second tier qualified opportunity zone business entity, which is just another partnership, so that way it gives you some flexibility inside of the program. And so we're regularly doing that, and it's a fairly seamless process. It's easy for people to make happen. And now there's nuances to it, and you got to be careful about those nuances. But if you've got a good professional, or if you need our assistance with it, we're happy to help walk people through that.
Cool. Well, I really appreciate this. This is there's I could go on for hours here. I know we try to keep these to a half hour. We still got enough time here, but I did happen to notice in some of my reading you talk about cryptocurrency. So how can crypto and real estate work together when it comes to opportunity zone investor strategies? Um, we already know some homes are being bought and sold with crypto, and I think, quite this is my personal opinion, I think it's going to be pretty much one of the biggest things that happen to the human race over the next
Yeah, I
generation.
agree. I absolutely agree. It's the new frontier.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
so because we're kind of on the, I guess, cutting edge of opportunity zones, we've had a ton of interaction with folks all around crypto. So one of the things that we did as part of our effort to democratize access to opportunity zones is we created this thing called the Osworks Group. And the Osworks Group is a virtual community. There's about 300 people in it. And there's regular meetings. There's different groups inside of that for different, not special interests, but different specialities. And one of those is the crypto zone. And so we've got a number of people that get together and they talk about all things crypto. The first play that is really important inside opportunity zones is that, and it's not so important right now with crypto kind of being in the doldrums where it is, but when crypto takes off, right? And the smart folks that are out there buying the dips right now, when this thing takes off and you're ultimately starting to harvest some of those gains, right? As part of your dollar cost averaging strategy, you can take those gains and you can roll them into a qualified opportunity fund and you can defer the gains until 2026.
Awesome.
So that's the first one. The second one is that becomes your equity that you have for your fund to do deals. The third thing is that you can couple that in with leverage. So you can borrow money against it now, and you can use the property or whatever business that you're investing in as, furthering that leverage. And then we've had a number of strategies of actual qualified opportunity zone businesses. So once again, this isn't just a real estate play. This is an actual business play too, that are specifically kind of focused around crypto. Now, it gets a little nuanced in that about how you have to treat the crypto and how you work the crypto in the mix of that, it just depends on specifically like what you're doing with it. But we've helped I don't want to say tons, but we've helped a number of people navigate those nuances to figure out how they can, utilize the opportunity zones as they execute their crypto strategy. Now, one of the things that you can't do and that I don't recommend doing is just setting up a QOZB as a LLC, popping up a bunch of miners in an opportunity zone and then saying, okay, I'm going to hold on to these crypto assets for the next 10 years. And then I'm going to sell them tax free. That is going to be substantial abuse. That gets you on the front page of the journal, whichever one you want to pick. Right. And you don't want to do that kind of thing. Right. But social impact stories that have crypto as a part of them. And I think that we're going to see more and more and more and more of that, right? That has massive potential for growth, 10x or over 10x growth, that I think that opportunity zones are a perfect place for that. So that way, when you exit that business of the back of 10 years, you don't pay any capital gains. Yeah. Another thing that we're regularly doing for those businesses is that we couple in Section 1202 qualified small business stock exemption in with an opportunity zone strategy. So you're getting kind of the best of both worlds, and the opportunity zones become a mitigating hedge against going over that 10x or $10 million cap that's in, the 1202 QSBS.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I tell you what, one of the things I'm thinking of here as we're talking, I also teach a class every Monday night called Monday Night Live, and I'd like to officially invite you to teach. We have routine.
I'm in. You don't have to say anything else. I'm in. Monday Night Live teaching. I'm in.
That's it. Yeah, we took a playoff course Monday Night Football, but it's live. It's an interactive. The participants. We opened it up to the public last year, so there's no charge for the people to be on it, and they get to ask questions, and it's taken off like It's like we invented pizza or something. But I think this is such an excellent subject, and we do this usually once a month. We'll have a guest on. So, but before we still got time here. I keep thinking of things I want to ask you, and so one of the things is we got this. So we got the picture. We have the what and a lot of the how. I know there's a lot more details to it, but when it comes to um, like where, like obviously opportunity zones can be anywhere in the United States, but are there certain areas where you find that there's more activity so compared to others, or any like website or tools people can look at and see?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a map, an interactive map at ozpros.com/map. And people can go in there and they can search, right? You can put in an address and you can search to determine whether that's in an opportunity zone or not.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that, it's just like anything else in real estate, that there's a lot of activity in the opportunity zones in in New York and in California and in Florida and in Texas, in the areas that are hot, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's just a lot of real estate activity there. And so obviously their opportunity zones are going to have a lot of activity as well. But we have seen a bump across the board in opportunity zones that house prices and, other real estate prices have increased over non-opportunity zones, at a noticeable rate, at a measurable rate. And so I think that that's really cool that, we're seeing the effect, and we're seeing the positive effect of this legislation.
Yeah.
So being able to kind of maybe filter it for ones that are really hot or whatever, that's going to kind of be like a feel thing. And you may have to couple in some other, software packages. A software company that I worked with, actually talking to them about an opportunity zone strategy. It's called getprivy.com. And that's what they do. They measure areas that are hot, and then they find deals that are similar to other deals that are out there based upon MLS feeds that they have. And so if you couple in the opportunity zone map, right, with a program or with the other ones that are out there, then, you can kind of, navigate through the areas that are, that are banging right now. So,
That's cool. So that's on the website then.
That is. And we'll have a link inside of that. We're going to have a special page for your listeners at ozpros.com/Gary Wilson. And that's O as in opportunity, Z as in zone, pros.com/Gary Wilson. And on that, there'll be a link to that map. And there's actually going to be a special deal for those people that listen to the end of the podcast. Yeah, we're going to put out there, on a special promotional code with a special gift. So stay tuned for the end, right?
Hi, I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for participating in the Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast. Also wanted to let you know that the book Global Investor Agent is officially out in print and in Kindle on Amazon. You can get it by clicking on the link right here. If you are an agent, definitely grab yourself a copy. This book, guys, was not just written by me. I also included 8 other investor agents from around the country. And I didn't just handpick them. I literally opened it up to the entire audience, and it was first come, first serve. So you're going to get feedback from brand new agents all the way up to top 25 team leaders. Some on my team, some are not on my team, with valuable insight and instructions and guidance and actual checklist to follow to not just survive, but thrive in this market. I know you're looking for that advantage, and this is it. By the way, if you are an investor, grab a copy for your agent. And for everybody, all profits from the sale of the book, Kindle and print, all go to the Healing House Foundation, 100%. Thank you for doing that too, guys. Let's get back to the show. Okay, that sounds good to me. Yeah, definitely stay tuned, guys. All right, now let's talk about timing. I remember when the legislation came out, it's one of those things that I put in the back of my mind. I'll get to that later. I'll learn more about it later. And of course, it's one of those things I think, gee, I should have looked at it as soon as it came out. But is there is there a time frame, like you mentioned, 2026? Is there possibly this thing could be extended? Because to me, it's an amazing opportunity for all Americans and America in general to benefit from this. I mean, and of course, I'm an abundance-minded entrepreneurial person, but think of all the job creations that are occurring because of this in the improved areas and just opportunities. called opportunity for a reason, but in any case, as far as the legislation goes, any insight there as far as length of window of opportunity and possible extensions, things like that?
Yeah. So, when the drafters did this, and I got to hand it to them, that they, in 3 pages of legislation, they got the attention of private capital.
Mm-hmm.
They got private capital to be patient within that 10-year hold, and they got it off the sidelines. And the way they did that was by putting in deadlines with additional incentives. So the legislation came out in 2017, and it said that if you had your investment in for 7 years prior to December 31st, 2026, and the magical date of people are always asking me why December 31st, 2026? That's the date that the Tax Cut and Jobs Act sunsets, right? So almost all tax legislation has a sunset date, so that way for future Congresses are not incentivized to get rid of it, right? And among other things. But they tied it back to that sunset date. So if you were invested for 7 years prior to that, you got a 15% reduction. 5 years prior to that, you got a 10% reduction in your taxes when you paid them in 2026. And so that's what got capital off the sidelines. Now, there's currently pending legislation because of COVID, because of how long it took to get the regs out, that to extend the program for an additional 2 years. And what that'll do is that'll bring back that 15% reduction in taxes, give everybody another 2 years, right, till 2028 to get your investments in, and then it'll extend the backside of the program out too. The really cool thing about this is that you have to hold your investments for 10 years, but the smart money is not saying how long do I have to hold it, how long do I get to hold it. And the reason is that, compound interest is the 7th wonder of the world, or could be argued that it is. Tax-free compound interest is the 8th, right? And so if you can keep your money into something that's growing tax-free, why would you want to take it out? Why would you want to sell it? And so this program, it ultimately sunsets December 31st, 2047. With the legislation, then it would be extended out to 2049. We've got some really cool advocacy stuff going on right now to try and get word out relative about extending it. People can write their congressman, they could call them and say, hey, listen, get that opportunity zone thing extended, because it's really powerful. And so hopefully that thing gets passed. We thought it might get done as part of the reconciliation. Didn't happen. And so I think that it's probably going to be, maybe first to come through after the midterms. The great thing is that it's we got massive bipartisan support, bicameral support. And so I think it's got a great chance of getting through. And, that's the thing, right? Is that this is the one thing that both sides of the aisle can agree upon. Why would we not want private capital going into areas, right, and making a difference? And so let's keep it up, and let's, and let's make some people some money along the way, because when you look at the net effect of what you're accomplishing with what you're giving up in the context of reduced taxes down the road, it pales in comparison. And so,
it's amazing. The fact that the bill itself is only 3 pages, and reminds me of Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address.
That's right.
The keynote speaker before him had a 2-hour speech.
But
the one that people remember forever is the Gettysburg Address. That was, I think 270 some odd words, and was over in about 5 minutes. And Lincoln even said himself, nobody will ever remember the words that were said there, but they certainly do. And it's just proof in the pudding. We do the same thing in our marketing. We learned years ago, shorten it, tighten it up, just get to the point. People are busy, and just get to the point.
That's right.
If it's way too long and you got to explain every little thing, it's probably not that good of a deal.
What's interesting is that the legislation was 3 pages. The regs are 497. So they got complicated on it, sure enough. But that's why we got experts out there that are available to help navigate through it.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, we're getting close, but everybody's always asking me, especially lately, what do I think about the economy, which way is it going, et cetera, et cetera. And I always tell them, look, I'm not an economist, I'm not an accountant, I'm not an attorney. I'm just Gary Wilson, and I know what I know, but I have been through several cycles, and so I always like to ask people too on the show. This is nothing you're going to be, nobody's going to say, well, Gary said this or Ashley said that, but Relative to the subject, do you see any impacts, or what are you seeing as far as going into the next, probably 6 to 18 months, as far as the activities related to this? How being able to borrow money, for example, is that still going to be easy? Is it going to be hard? Is it going to cost more money? Things like that. What are your thoughts on that? Or opinions?
Well, I mean, by very definition, right? A rising interest rate market, right, based upon trying to curb inflation, is that the whole reason why you do that is in order to slow the economy down, because
Mhm.
inflation's going crazy. Now, unfortunately, you know, are the higher ups don't understand that, you can call it an Inflation Reduction Act, right? And you could say you're reducing inflation, but if you're increasing the money supply by continuing to dump money into the system,
Yep,
regardless of whether you're reducing rates or not, you're still going to be ultimately causing inflation. And
exactly.
so that's kind of my concern, is this whole stagflation thing,
Mhm.
because if you don't have access to money, or if the cost of money is going up, and you're causing you're causing a pull and a drag on people being able to do deals, that can have some negative consequences if you're at the same time still pumping money into the system in form of, government spending and that kind of thing. And so I hope that they get that right. I hope that we kind of tweak some of that stuff. But the natural result of a slowing real estate market is that, people don't have as many capital gains. And
Mhm.
so if there's not as many transactions happening, then there's less capital gains. And so obviously that slows the velocity of what's happening inside of the opportunity zones. That it's actually kind of a good thing, right? Because it allows the savvy real estate investors, the ones that have cash or alternative methods of financing, to be
Mhm.
able to pick up good deals while we're getting a little bit of a reset. And so the folks that are the really sharp real estate investors are kind of pulling for a reset inside of pricing. And
Yeah.
so I'm waiting to see if that happens. I'm I don't hope, ill will and reduction in prices against anybody, but I'm trying to buy some land down at the beach, and man, it's been insane since COVID. So I'm hoping that we get a
Uh,
little bit of a break and we get a little bit of a reset there, so that
yeah.
the personally, right? So my own best interest or whatever. But I think that, smart money, right? It's kind of like Warren Buffett said, you buy stuff when it's on sale. And in real estate, you make money on the buy. And I think that we're getting ready to come into a market where that's going to be, of significant opportunity.
Yeah. I agree. I agree with you fully. This is my fifth market cycle, and the first three I was, still pretty young, 20s and 30s, and listened to the media and got afraid and all that stuff. The last one though, I mean, we were well positioned. I didn't build the business to be ready for a recession. It just happened to be a really good model for a recession, and we literally, our business, grew sixfold in the first 3 years of the recession. And here I'm now sitting in Florida on the coast. And just in the last 2 years, since the summer of 2020, prices have literally doubled on the condos out there and the duplexes and stuff. Just amazing. So I do think we're obviously in a correction, and
There's no
by
way
definition,
there's no way that growth, the kind of growth, is sustainable, right?
exactly. Yep.
And
Yep.
so it's going to be interesting to see what shakes out with that.
Yep.
Now, are prices going to go rapidly down? I don't think so. I don't think we have any of the macro, indicators like we had from, back in 2008, 2009. But I don't know, it's anybody's guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's very unique. Every economy is unique. Every recession's unique. The last one was led by different factors. We didn't have big inflation. We had an overheated real estate market, obviously, but it was caused by different factors, and namely, unfortunately, it was the mortgage business was,
Subprime, baby.
not very pretty at that time. I don't want to go into the details, but that's what
Sure.
caused it. And here, the inflation was, for the most part, if not caused by, exacerbated by the government printing all that money and handing it out. I mean, and I'm an American too. I believe me, it was hard to not take the money because there was so many people were getting it.
Sure.
And but here we are now. If you print too much of money is a commodity too, just like
Exactly right.
diamonds. If you flood the world with a bunch of diamonds, they're not going to be as valuable. So But I do see the opportunity, and I'm excited. I'm trying to be really patient right now because I've seen price drops of 10%, but we just call them corrections.
Sure.
In a lot of markets, 10% is not that bad. It's just a simple, you gotta, it has a correction. So I do believe though, as things move on, we'll see more the things that are happening today, we'll see the impacts 3 to 6 months later. And I'm pretty sure based on my experience, we're going to have a lot of good opportunities out there. And I don't want to see people get hurt. But the good news is if you're do not panic. Everybody listen, remember this. All this news does not mean that you should panic. It means you should prepare.
That's
Okay?
exactly right.
Prepare for it. Take advantage of opportunity zones. They're called opportunity zones for a reason. And it's going to be out there for a while. I'm excited because in 2049 or 2047 or 2049, I'll be 86. And I think at that time I'll be ready to slow down and retire,
Yeah,
so
maybe. Yeah, maybe I'll stop, going to the office, and maybe I'll take it to 4 days a week then, right?
there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love what I do, and it looks like you do too. And so I tell you what, I know we've gone over a little bit, but can we go over a little bit of how can people reach out to you and find us again? I know it's ozpros.com.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got a
Okay.
special offer at OZ Pros. That's once again, opportunitysonepros.com/Gary Wilson. And so go to that landing page. You can find the Opportunity Zones map, or go to ozpros.com/map, and you can search to find if there's an opportunity zone, if your property's in an opportunity zone that you're looking at. We also, inside of that, right on our landing page, we'll have a place where you can actually schedule a strategy call with me or my team. We've got a couple of other ways of interacting. We're rolling out a webinar that's going to be informational about opportunity zones, and so you'll be able to participate in the webinar from that page.
Okay.
And we've also got the Ozworks group community that people could join if they wanted to. And then the final piece is that I do an OZ Pros compliance boot camp, where it's a weekly call with myself. It's kind of like your Monday night live, right? Where you answer questions, and it's literally rapid fire for an hour and a half, where we go through all things opportunity zone. It's a monthly fee to participate in that. That's, significantly less than, if you're calling in for a one-on-one strategy call.
Oh, yeah.
So we've tried to democratize access, but as a result, there's a pretty significant demand, and so we've tried to navigate and to make interacting with us as easily as possible, so that folks can get the answers that they need and get headed in the direction of executing on their opportunity zone dreams.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, I can't thank enough for doing this, and for everybody listening, please leave a review on this one. And I know we asked that a lot, but it's really the podcast reviews are the currency of podcasts. It's what makes them keep going and growing around, because they're free to the listener. So if you could do that, I mean, clearly this was an exceptional podcast. If you could do that, it'd be awesome. And while you're out there, go to these sites. Particularly go to ozpros.com, or you can do /Gary Wilson and get the offers there. And also stay tuned for Monday Night Live class, because we'll have Ashley on, and that way it's interactive. I mean, you can get on a Zoom call, meet all these investor agents around the country, and have Ashley there live too, and me, and I'll be the second fiddle on that one, guys. So you get to ask all the questions you want to Ashley. So I appreciate it, Ashley. Thank you very much again for doing this, and for all the listeners. And any last parting words of wisdom, and if your favorite saying from your dad or your granddad, maybe, or
Well, I gotta deliver on that special gift. So I mentioned the OZ Pros Compliance Bootcamp. If they go and they sign up for that, we got the first month for $100. So
awesome.
If you type in first month 100 as the promo code for that, and we'd love to get people in, kind of similar to your format on your Monday Night Live, and we're stoked about that.
Okay.
I think the final words that I have, right, and this is for everybody that's out there, whether you're an opportunity zone investor, or whether you're a real estate investor or aspiring real estate investor or whatever, is to just do it, right? So when I was inside of the law firm, and I was like, man, I I really want to get involved in entrepreneurial stuff. I was a lawyer trapped in an entrepreneur trapped in a lawyer's body.
There you go.
And I talked with a guy and he said, listen, man, he's like, the only difference between you and me is like, is I've actually done a deal. He's like, just go do it. And so I did it. And I think that has become my mantra, is to just wake up every morning, right, and to do something that day. And the final piece of that is do something that day that's going to leave somebody that you interact with better off than you found them. And so make it a point to wake up resolved each day to make a difference. And you can do that in your family. You can do that with somebody that you encounter on the street, but wake up resolved to make a difference. And that's certainly what I do. And hopefully we'll be able to do that when we interact with you at ozpros.com.
That sounds awesome. Well, thank you again from the bottom of a lot of hearts. And I look forward to seeing you again. Ashley, hang on tight while I wrap this one up. So everybody, when you're out there, after you leave the review, right, go to the websites, and then also go to globalinvestoragent.com, click on learn more, particularly if you're an agent. This, I can't emphasize this enough, guys. The market is turning, and you have to add this to your model so that you're not only going to survive, but thrive in this changing market. And it's going to set you up for life. I mean, I promise you, when you have these investor relationships, they're a lifetime. They're not one house and you never see them again. We're talking, 4, 12, dozens of transactions over the years. I mean, it's like manna from heaven. So we'll look forward to seeing you there, and we'll see you on the next podcast, Massive Passive Cash Flow Podcast. In the meantime, take care, and God bless you and your families.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Massive Passive Cash Flow. Be sure to go to realestatewithgarywilson.com to join our community and start building wealth today.